At the western edge of Incline Village, Nevada, a few hundred yards before State Route 431 meets the road that circles Lake Tahoe, there is a strip of asphalt that angles up and away from the highway, fitted with 6 pre-tension steel nets and a heated surface so that ice can never disable it. It is a runaway truck ramp, and it exists for one reason. On the morning of June 18, 2010, a yellow Kenworth semi-hauling lumber came down the mountain above it, with brakes that had stopped being brakes. The driver, a 41-year-old man from San Diego, aimed for the ramp, which was then a bed of gravel with piles of rock meant to catch him. He hit it at a speed no one ever measured, struck 2 of the gravel piles, went airborne, clipped a tree, and landed on a 2-story house. The truck and the house burned. The driver died. A 19-year-old woman inside the home walked out alive. When investigators later asked the Nevada Department of Transportation what the maximum speed rating of that ramp was, the answer was that no such data existed. Nobody knew how fast was too fast, because nobody had ever designed for a truck that flies. That ramp sits at the bottom of the Mount Rose Highway, and the Mount Rose Highway is what we are talking about today. It is 24.4 miles of 2-lane road connecting the high desert of Reno to the shore of Lake Tahoe, and at its crest it reaches 8,911 feet, which makes it the highest mountain pass in the entire Sierra Nevada that stays open all year. Not the highest pass that never closes. Every other road at this elevation surrenders to winter. This one is plowed, chained, sanded, and driven, every single day, through blizzards that drop snow by the foot, and winds that shove vehicles across the center line. There are no gas stations between Reno and Incline Village. There is one runaway ramp, and on the Tahoe side, the road falls away from the summit on a sustained grade of 6.3%, which is the number at the center of everything that has ever gone wrong here. To understand why this road exists at all, you have to go back to a professor with a thermometer. In 1905 and 1906, a University of Nevada classics professor named James Church began climbing Mount Rose in winter, alone, to build a weather observatory near the 10,776-foot summit, and while he was up there he invented something the entire American West still depends on, the snow survey, a method of measuring the water locked inside a mountain snowpack. The crude road cut up Galena Creek to serve his observatory became, in 1932, Nevada State Route 27, a designation on a map more than a road on the ground. Crews oiled and graded it through the depression, pushed it over the summit to Incline Village by the late 1930s, and then largely left it alone. As late as 1950, it was a summer road, a fair-weather shortcut that winter simply erased. What changed it was the Olympics. When the 1960 Winter Games came to Squaw Valley, the ski bowl on Slide Mountain was designated an alternate site for the men's downhill, and Nevada rebuilt 12 miles of the old route into a modern highway, boosters calling it the Highway to the Sky. It reopened on May 14, 1960, engineered for the traffic of that era, and then the region did what this region does. It grew. The valley section of the highway carried about 15,000 vehicles a day in 2014. By 2019, it was nearly 23,000. Commuters priced out of Tahoe, skiers out of Reno, delivery trucks, tourists, all of them funneled over a summit where the air holds 2/3 the oxygen of sea level, and the pavement holds ice into June. Here is what a 6.3% grade actually does, because the number sounds gentle and it is not. For every 100 feet you travel, the road drops 6 feet, and it keeps dropping, mile after mile, from the summit down through the switchbacks toward the lake. A loaded truck, or a motorhome, or a family SUV with a trailer, converts that lost elevation into speed, and the only thing standing between speed and catastrophe is friction. Brakes work by turning motion into heat. On a flat road, they get a moment to cool between uses. On a long, sustained downgrade, ridden continuously, they do not. The pads glaze. The fluid can boil. The drums expand away from the shoes. This is brake fade, and it does not announce itself gradually. The pedal simply travels farther, then all the way to the floor, and the vehicle is no longer a vehicle. It is 9,000 feet of stored gravity looking for the bottom of the mountain, and at the bottom of this mountain is a town. That is why the ramp was built, in October 1978, a spur of deep gravel, where the highway curls into Incline Village. By 2010, it had been used at least 11 documented times, and most of those times it worked. A driver in trouble steered in, the gravel swallowed the wheels, the truck stopped, and the story never made the news. But 3 times in 9 years, it did make the news. In May 2002, a truck carrying gypsum wallboard hit the ramp and went airborne. The 23-year-old driver airlifted out with head injuries. In 2003, a driver named Richard Densmore struck one of the gravel piles and cartwheeled into a tree. And then came June 18, 2010, the lumber truck, the flight, the house on Woodridge Circle, the fire, the 4 family cats that died in it, and the ramp's quiet secret laid bare in the Highway Patrol report. The state had no documentation for how much speed this thing could actually absorb. Think about that for a moment. The last line of defense on the highest year-round pass in the Sierra was a pile of rocks that had never been raided. It took 6 more years, but in 2016, Nevada rebuilt the ramp completely. A $4.6 million project unlike almost anything else in the country. The gravel was replaced with asphalt. 6 pre-tension drag nets were strung across it, designed to catch the grill of a runaway truck and pay out like arresting cables on an aircraft carrier, bleeding off the energy in stages instead of all at once. The surface was heated so snow and ice could never harden the bed in the very months trucks are most likely to need it. Flashing signs and an overhead digital board now warn traffic when a vehicle is in the net. About 5,000 vehicles come down that section every day, and the state finally built something that assumes one of them, eventually, will arrive with no brakes at all, because history says one always does. And the ramp only answers for one kind of death. The highway has others. In winter, the upper reaches are among the most exposed pieces of pavement in the Sierra, raked by winds that blow fallen snow back across the road minutes after the plows pass. Building drifts at the summit while the sun shines in Reno 20 minutes below. Chain controls come and go. Whiteouts arrive in seconds. And the curves do not care about the season. In a single 2-week stretch in November 2025, the highway closed twice for fatal crashes. One near the summit when a westbound vehicle drifted across the center line into oncoming traffic. Another lower down near Douglas Fir Drive, and troopers were back again weeks later for a driver who left the road entirely. None of these were trucks, none of them needed a ramp. They were ordinary vehicles on an extraordinary road, a road where the margin between a scenic drive and a head-on is the width of a painted line at 8,000 feet. There is an irony threaded through all of this that is worth sitting with. The mountain this highway crosses is where humanity learned to measure snow, where James Church proved you could quantify the water hidden in a winter, and a century later the road over his mountain still cannot fully domesticate the thing he measured. The state can heat a ramp. It cannot heat 24 miles. It can string steel nets at the bottom. It cannot string them along every curve. Every improvement since 1960 has been a negotiation with the same facts. The grade is the grade. The altitude is the altitude. And the traffic keeps doubling anyway. You should drive it. That needs to be said plainly, because the Mount Rose Highway on a clear morning is one of the great drives in the American West. The road climbs out of the sagebrush, threads through Jeffrey Pine, switchbacks past the ski area with the highest base elevation at Tahoe, and crests at a summit where you can see Reno glittering in the desert behind you. And then, around one more curve, the impossible blue of Lake Tahoe fills the windshield all at once. 1,000 feet of cobalt framed in granite. There is a brake check area near the top. Use it. Drop a gear before the descent, not during it. Let the engine hold you back instead of the pads, because the pads are counting every second of that 6.3%, and they keep a stricter ledger than you do. And when the road finally levels out at the bottom and delivers you into Incline Village, look to your right. You will pass the ramp, the asphalt tongue with its steel nets waiting, the overhead sign dark, hopefully, the way it is on almost every day of almost every year. It sits there beside the highway like a held breath. Somewhere up the mountain behind you, a truck is starting down the grade, its driver trusting a hydraulic system, a set of pads, a margin of heat. Almost always, the trust is repaid. The nets exist for the day it isn't. They were rebuilt because a man came down this mountain in 2010 with nothing left to stop him but gravel and hope, and the gravel was not enough, and the mountain, which was here 10,000 years before the professor and his thermometer, and will be here 10,000 years after the last set of brakes cools in the valley, did what mountains do. It let him fall. The road is open today. The summit is 8,911 feet. Check your brakes before you go, because everything on this highway, the nets, the signs, the heated asphalt, the ramp itself, is a monument to the drivers who didn't.